Good evening, Sports Zonians. How's everybody doing out there tonight? I am Mike Aglioloro. I am your host for this is Sports Zone. Coming to you live like we do each and every week here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Radio Network. We got a good show for you tonight. We'll be joined by Erich Tressler in a matter of moments. Hopefully we'll have Dave Hastings on in a little while. And we got a lot to talk about here tonight. We have the Mets general manager has been announced. His name is Brodie Van Wagenen. We have all the trades that have gone on today as we count down towards the NFL trading deadline. And let's get started because now we have Erich Tressler on the show. Erich, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, Mike. Doing good.
Good.
Ready to get sweaty.
Yeah, let's get sweaty, dude. All right, so I tell you what, before we start with everything that's happened over the course of the last 24 hours, what are your thoughts on the new World Series champions of baseball, the Boston Red Sox?
They were the best team all year. There's nothing really to say about it. They 108 games. They were better than everybody in the regular season and better than everybody in the postseason. It seems like David Price's postseason isn't necessarily a postseason thing as it is just a Yankee thing. Apparently, I guess he just doesn't play well against the Yankees, but other than that, it seems like he's all right. Pierce had a hell of a series, and they just had a hell of a year. So, as much as I don't like to see it as a Yankee fan, I got to swallow it and hope our team comes back stronger next year and see what happens. So,
well,
congrats to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, I kind of thought Houston was still going to wind up winning this year. I thought it would either be Houston or the Dodgers winning the whole thing. But the way they played this year, and they got the great young lineup, the pitching, like you said about Price, even though, let's be honest, at times over the last
the National League just wasn't strong enough this year, though.
No,
I mean, the Dodgers were only a 92-win team. They really didn't have the firepower to go after them, and I mean,
The Dodgers are also a team, and I'm not saying I thought either the Dodgers or the Astros could win. The Dodgers are a team that I think you can agree. You look at the talent, I think they're a better team than their record indicated. It doesn't mean that they could close when it counted, and obviously we saw that here. But, if you got one thing going for you, if you look at Boston's track record over the last 15 years or so, they won this year. You got about 4 or 5 years until you guys deal with them winning again. So you got that going for
you. All right. But yeah, no, tip my hat to them, and congrats on a good season, and looking forward to next year.
Now I wanna move because obviously I'm sure you're aware of what I want to talk about tonight. So we talked about the Mets general manager search last week, and it looked like Doug Melvin was the front runner. I mentioned who I wanted. I wanted Shane Bloom, the guy from the Tampa Bay Rays organization, and the Mets fool everyone. They go with the agent, Brodie Van Wagenen. Now, Van Wagenen.
No, they just didn't go. They didn't go with Bloom. The report came out today. They didn't go with Bloom because Bloom came in and said he wanted to blow everything up.
I did not.
He wanted to start from scratch and rebuild, and the Mets didn't want to hear that. And Van Wagenen came in and said we can win now and win later, and that's what they wanted to hear, and that's why he got the job.
Well, I did not actually hear that report, so that's interesting to see. But listen, I said last week. You go, and Francesa actually said this on the Fan today too. You go with the guy from the Rays organization because the Mets, their ownership is a team that likes to do with less all the time. So why wouldn't you go with the guy who's from the organization that does more with less than any other team in baseball? But let's talk about Van Wagenen for a second because this is the guy Jacob deGrom, Noah Syndergaard, Yoenis Cespedes, Todd Frazier, Jason Vargas, their agent. And he's not the first sports agent to become a general manager of a team. You got Rob Pelinka.
No, but all the provisions in his new contract stop him.
Yeah, let me finish here. I'm sorry. Let me just say this real quick. You got Rob Pelinka of the Lakers. You had Dave Stewart a couple of years ago. Joe Garagiola Jr. few other guys. I'll let you finish what you were saying, but I'm going to talk about how I think this is going to go here. Let's see what you're going to say, though.
It's going to be terrible. He can't negotiate with their top players. He can't negotiate. It's in the contract. There's provisions. He can't negotiate. Noah Syndergaard. He can't negotiate the Grom. He can't negotiate Cespedes. There are provisions in his contract where he can advise, but he will not be a decision maker on those contracts.
Where did you hear this from?
What do you mean? Where didn't you hear this from?
I did not hear this. Dude, I have worked about 10, 12 hours just about every day for the last week and a half. Okay? So
I'm just saying, these are the things I've heard, and I think you should look into because these are all the true things that are going on. He is not an actual GM. He's not he's just a front man. He's a bullshit artist. They still have the three-headed people behind him, and Minaya and Rico and the other one.
Yeah, I know.
It's all a sham.
I don't know if I would call it a sham. I want a little bit more on your sources here. Where are you hearing that from?
I heard it from the Michael Kay show. I watched the Michael Kay show. That's what he was reporting.
First of all, you know my opinions on Michael Kay. So if that's your source,
listen. He was reporting it. This is what he said. This is what his source told him. This is what he said. This is what they talked about. So, I mean, I can't steal the credit for it, and I can't tell you these are my sources, but I can tell you that this is what was said, and this is actually what I believe because it makes sense. You wouldn't hire him and have him be able to negotiate those contracts. It would be a conflict of interest. You can't have it. This whole thing is just a bullshit.
I mean, listen, here's the thing. We always get on the Mets for being the frugal ones, always trying to do things like inside.
They are.
Well, you let me.
And I'll tell you what. Another interesting stat. Hang on. I'll tell you another interesting stat I heard. Do you know the Mets? Their analytics staff is comprised of 3 people.
Well, apparently that's going to go up now.
Oh, 3 people. Do you know every other team in the league has at least in the teens? The Yankees have 20.
Well, that's going to go, according to Van
I'm just saying, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
they don't spend the money. This is another thing they talked about on the show that I agree with. They don't spend their money wisely. Instead of putting it into the front office and putting it into research and putting it into scouting and putting it into the things that matter, they're not putting it into those, and they're putting it into bad players.
Well, we knew.
So, I mean, something's got to change.
That's not exactly new information. I mean, that's not a head.
It may not be new, but this signing does nothing for it. It's just going to be more of the same.
If he can get them to expand the analytics department, which he said at the press conference he was planning on doing, I'd say that's a win. But, dude, I've been saying it for 6 years now. If you're not going to spend the money on the Major League roster, spend it on the Cuban market, spend it on the Latin American market. So we knew they weren't doing that stuff. So, I mean, you didn't exactly say anything that we didn't know. But here's the thing. I'm not as adamantly against it as you say. I get what you're saying, the conflict of interest stuff, and I'm sorry, Michael Kay. You know my feelings on Michael Kay. If it's actually,
but listen, why would he report on the contract? He's obviously has to hear about the contract.
Huh? What?
He obviously had heard about the provisions in the contract, though.
Anyway.
Those are actual provisions in the contract. That's not him just making up stories.
Anyway. Here's the thing. You got the.
Hey, Mike, how often is my reporting wrong, by the way?
No,
how's my track record on reporting things?
You got a decent track record. I wish you had a better track record of letting me finish the sentence, but we'll get into that later. Anyway, here's my thing. I don't hate this hire. I really don't. He's got guys behind him who, I mean, I know you're going to spin it that they're going to be the ones making all the decisions. I think you look at how John Lynch went with the San Francisco 49ers. I think he was another guy where we all kind of thought, man, why is he being named the general manager? And he's had people around him, more experienced people around him than him. And, you know, he's made some mistakes along the way, but he's made some decent decisions. You know, you got Garoppolo for a steal. And, you know, you can say what you want about the way Garoppolo turned out, but I don't know. I like the attitude so far. I like the fact that they went outside the box for it. I do. You know, rather than just going with a tried and true, either a one way or another way. You know, you had the two schools of thought. You had the analytical guy in Bloom. You had the old school mentality, the scouting with Melvin. I like the fact that they kind of went outside the box with this one. You know what I mean? As far as the negotiation goes, listen, you know he's going to want to give DeGrom and say, I want them to sign DeGrom and Syndergaard long term. So doing something like this, because when was the last time the Mets really opened up the free agent wallet? Eric, when was the last time they really opened up the free agent wallet?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, they opened it up, but they opened it up in the wrong ways. So, I mean.
No. I'm not talking what they did last year. Because,
No, I'm saying even when you go back to, you can go back to the early 2000s with guys like Mo Vaughn or, I know there were some bad signings around
wait a minute.
Beltran, too.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The last time they really opened up their wallet was when Omar Minaya was the general manager of the team. If you're keeping Omar Minaya on, listen, he's good at scouting. I don't like Omar Minaya, but you have to give him credit. 90% of the guys on the Mets roster in 2015 were guys that Minaya actually drafted or signed. So he knows what he's doing from a scouting perspective. And if the Wilpons trust Minaya enough to actually be willing to open up the wallet for him and Van Wagenen, isn't that what we wanted from the Mets all along anyway? So if this is the way to get there, is it really a bad thing?
Yeah, because again, he's not the general manager. He's got to go through Minaya to get what he wants.
I don't think he's.
Or go through whoever. It's not right. It's like he has no power. He has no authority. He's a head.
I don't know if I totally agree with that. I think that hasn't been proven yet. To say he has to go through those guys, you heard the word collaboration a lot in the press conference, and this is going to be a collaboration. Anytime you have a guy who's in a position for the first time, that's what you expect him to do anyway. You expect him to collaborate. He's got advisors around. That's any good front office is going to have some sort of collaboration. You look at Chicago. Theo Epstein has, Brian Hoyer, Jed Hoyer, whatever his name is, underneath him. There is collaboration there. When they were in Boston, they had collaboration. Cashman doesn't do things on his own. He has a team that he collaborates with. So, all right, you can say what you want about having the three.
No, because I'll tell you what, when Cashman goes and talks to Hal Steinbrenner, it's Cashman. It's not a team of people that goes and talks to Hal Steinbrenner.
But he still has his team that he collaborates with before he gets to that meeting.
Yeah, but again, it's too many people are getting to Fred Wilpon. Where the Yankees, everything goes through Brian Cashman to get to Hal Steinbrenner. Everything's not going to go through Van Wagner to get to everybody, to get to Wilpon. It's going to go through Minaya. It's going to go through Rico. It's going to go through the other guy. It's going to go through, I keep forgetting his name for some reason.
Rico.
It's going to go through those.
It's going to go through.
Yeah. It's going to go through those guys as well as going through Wilpon. It's not going to, he doesn't have any authority to sit down and make any decisions.
I don't know.
Everything is going to be a collabo, and he's not going to have any say on the big free agent signings. The guys they need to keep in Syndergaard and DeGrom. That's huge.
That right there, I don't know if I agree with that at all, because he's going to want them to be signed long term. I don't know if it's a conflict.
You don't know that. You don't know that. You don't know his motive now that he's GM. His motive as an agent was different than his motive as a GM.
But he still has, you can call this a conflict of interest if you want to, but he still has a unique understanding of those guys that nobody else will. So I feel like he's still.
That's the conflict of interest and the reason he can't negotiate.
Eric, please, let me finish my sentence. If he still, so he's got the understanding of those guys, and he's still going to want them to get top dollar. If you're saying that he can't make that decision, Minaya is the one who's going to make that decision. Minaya is the one who would want him, Wilpon, to open up the checkbook anyway. So Van Wagenen can still grease the wheels and say, you should do this. And so what if it's got to go through Minaya? He's still going to be the one who's, I'm telling you right now, he's going to be on the bandwagon to give them what they want. And I want them to get what they want, because I want DeGrom and Syndergaard here, lifelong Mets. That's what I want. Now, we all know when they get their big contracts, they're going to get hurt the first season. We know that's going to happen. But I still want them to get their money. I said it at the deadline, and I say it now. I want DeGrom signed for 5 years. You want to sign Syndergaard for 7, you go right the hell ahead. And if this enables that to do it, because I'm telling you right now, the idea that he's not going to want to give those guys top dollar is asinine to me. Asinine to me. And if now you got 2 guys in the room who can advocate to get them top dollar, and you build the team around those 2, great. Mission accomplished. Go ahead.
I think you're deluded. I think you're living in a fantasy world.
Now
You're
listen,
living in Mets fantasy land because they're not signing. You'll be lucky to sign one, and I don't think they're signing either. So that's just my opinion. I think both are gone. I don't think there's. I don't think they're re-signing them. I don't think they're giving them top dollar because that's never what the Mets really do. And I don't. I think you're living on cloud 9 right now. You want to have hope. You want to have faith. I'll let you go with it as a fan. But in all reality, this is not a good move, and it's not going to work out well. I don't see this as being a winning combination for them.
Listen, if it doesn't work out well, I think we can both agree. If it doesn't work out well, it's not going to be Van Wagenen's fault. It's going to be the Wilpons' fault. Because they are ultimately – you can put whoever you want as the general manager. They're the ones who are going to have the final say in all of this stuff with the money. They can say what they want.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
that
is the problem. That's the absolute problem. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. So
they went with another yes man. They went with another guy who told them what they wanted to hear, and it's just going to be more of the same for the Mets.
Mm. Well, ultimately, I don't think you're that off in that assessment. Nothing. Can we agree? Nothing that we said today really going to have any impact on things in the end of the day. Because I don't know if you heard him on Francesa earlier today, but Francesa asked him what he thought about the roster and if he felt they could compete. And he's given the answers you would expect anyone coming into a situation like this to say. He's not going to throw anybody under the bus. He's not going to say, man, this team sucks and I need to get a whole new roster. He's saying, I think we have a good team. We're going to add some more, and I think we can compete with this team. What the hell else would you expect him to say? With what I just said, Eric, is there anything there that you would be surprised to hear a new general manager say? I don't care if you took over a team that went 1-61 last year. You're going to say I got a team with some talent
but it's
here?
Generic.
That's my point.
Listen, he looks good. He smiles nice. He's got a pleasant personality. He's 44 years old. I'm sure he's got a lot going for him, but he's a face to be on camera. That's in my opinion. He's the guy who's gonna, handle the press conferences and take the heat and everything else. And I don't know. I just don't. I don't see this as the Mets guy to bring him to a title in the future.
Well, we'll see what happens on that one. But, I mean, we'll close this, and then we'll get into some football here. Looking at the free agent class of this year, obviously you got some big names. You got Harper. You got Machado. You might have Kershaw out there. You look at the outfielders who are going to be available. You got Adam Jones, A.J. Pollock, Andrew McCutchen, bunch of different guys who are hitting free agency this year. Obviously, I mean, we'll take Harper and we'll take Machado out. Who, in your opinion, like the most intriguing names out there free agency-wise? And I'm not just talking about for the Mets, for any team. Who are the ones who really kind of stick at you? They're like, man, I wish this guy was on my team.
I mean, well, I think Kershaw is a no-go as well. He's due, I think, like $60-something million in the next 2 years, and he's not going to get that anywhere else. So he's opting in. It's the same with David Price. He's owed $120 in the next 4 years. Nobody else is paying him that, so he's opting in too. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to have either of those guys. The guy that intrigues me most, because I really don't know much about him, but I hear the Yankees talking about him, is Corbin. From, I guess, the Diamondbacks, I want to say.
Yeah.
Starting pitcher. He's supposed to be, pretty decent, but I think he's, like, finding it later in his career. I don't think he's super young. I think he's, maybe late 20s.
He's 29, if I may. This was a dude who was all-star caliber talent, but he had some arm problems. I think he had 2 Tommy John surgeries already. I could be wrong about the second one, but he had the hot start to this year, and I think he didn't exactly finish strong. I'm telling you right now, about 3 or 4 years ago, this guy looked like a future Cy Young Award winner. So if I'm the Yankees, I'm not signing him long term, but if I can get him on like a 2-year deal with a 3rd-year option, that's something worth considering. I don't know how he played in Yankee Stadium though, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and there's not a good track record of pitchers coming over from the National League to the American League.
Especially you put him in Yankee Stadium. I mean, he didn't come from the National League, but you look at Sonny Gray. I think Sonny Gray is more the norm as opposed to the standout there in terms of pitchers who can't pitch in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you there. It's just, we got to try something. The Yankees need pitching, so it's a name that kind of intrigues me the most because it's the one they're kind of talking about the most.
Now, you know the name who intrigues you the most. I know the guy you want on the Yankees. I know you chomping at the bit to get Matt Harvey now, ain't you? Ain't you?
No, I'm good. I'm good on that one. Maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but
yeah,
not now.
Yeah, that's funny to me. I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing the Mets get a guy like E.J. Pollock to play center field. I don't know. And it's funny, we talk about the Mets needing to spend money. Unless you get Manny Machado, I don't really know who the Mets could bring in right now to really improve that lineup, because the problem is because you made so many bad signings last year, you're stuck with all of them this year. And you can't really do anything because just about every position's full. So there's that. And from everything I've heard about Manny Machado, I don't know. I mean, obviously, talent-wise, I want him on the team, but then you hear he doesn't hustle, he's not good in the clubhouse. Why would you want that on your roster?
I don't. I'm good with our roster as far as I'm concerned. I don't even want to go out and sign Harper. I would prefer Harper over Machado, but if we're going to spend the money, but I'll be honest, I don't think we need either. I think we need to spend our money on starting pitching. Would
you be in favor of something that was rumored at the beginning of last season? The idea that if the Yankees signed Bryce Harper, they trade Giancarlo Stanton to the Dodgers. Would you be in favor of something like that?
No, because you're just trading one. You're signing one expensive guy and trading another. It doesn't make any sense. Put them all in the outfield.
Well, I was going to say, it makes a little bit of sense when you consider the fact that Harper can play center field, and then you give Judge back right field, and now you have a little bit more of an asset allocation. And instead of just having guys who play the same position, now you have someone who can play center field.
Plus, Stanton will probably DH in that situation if it were to happen.
Yeah, but you also want to keep you kind of want to keep DH free so you can put Sanchez there every once in a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it can rotate between Sanchez and Duhar and Stanton.
That's fair. All right, let's talk a little bit about the wild day in the NFL for the trade deadline. I don't know about you. I don't ever remember a time where there were this many big trades on the NFL trading deadline day. Do you?
I don't know if I would consider them that big. I mean, is Golden Tate and Demaryius Thomas like that big? Well, they would have been bigger if it was 2 or 3 years ago, I feel like.
Yeah, but
they're really good receivers, and they're going to help the teams they go to. Trust me, I know that Deshaun Watson's happy, Carson Wentz is happy. They got good deals for him. I think a 4th rounder pretty much, and swapping 7ths.
Yeah, but
Demaryius was a good deal for Houston. I think a 3rd for Golden Tate's a good deal for Philly. So I mean, I don't know. I don't mind it for the teams that we're selling.
Here's the thing. I'm not saying these are huge names by any stretch. I'm just saying there was a time 2 or 3 years ago where there was almost no activity at the trading deadline. And now you got all
I would disagree. I just think we hear about it more now. I think there's more social media, more outlets, more everything.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't ever remember seeing a day where you got four guys who are all on some level. They have been Pro Bowl talents in the past. Clayton Dix traded from the Packers to the Redskins. Dante Fowler traded from the Jaguars to the Rams. That's the one I want to talk about. And then you got Ty Montgomery traded from the Packers to the Ravens. And then the two you brought up.
He only got traded because of his shitty move in the last game.
Yeah, but he's still
where
a
they
good
told
talent.
him to kneel in the end zone. They told him to kneel in the end zone, and he took it out and fumbled it.
Which is the
He's gone.
I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you alienate the Green Bay Packers. That's just horrible. But still, you got those. Then you got the Golden Tate move going to the Eagles. Demaryius Thomas going to the Texans. I'm sorry. You got 5 big trades happening on one day in the NFL. That crap did not happen 2 or 3 years ago. In season, no, I'm sorry. The NFL was always the league that never had any trades. And now you got this. So let's talk about him real quick. Demaryius Thomas going to the Texans. Eric, I kind of agree with your sentiment. I don't know what type of impact Thomas is going to have on the Texans. Like I get that they got him to replace Fuller and everything, but can Thomas really have a type of season that he had a couple of years ago playing opposite DeAndre Hopkins? Can he get back
if he can get 75% or 80% of what he was, yeah, that's definitely effective. You know, he can still go up and catch jump balls. He can still go out and run routes. He hasn't lost it completely. You know, he had a little case of the dropsies for a little bit, but I mean, if you feel like if he can get that worked out, I mean, he could be a good weapon for Deshaun Watson.
Well, I tell you this, fantasy value-wise, in my opinion, this kills Thomas's fantasy value for the rest of the season. And I got Demaryius Thomas in my league. I was not too happy when I heard this one, if I'm being honest. Tate to the Eagles, this is the one. Is Tate really that much of an upgrade from what the Eagles had at wide receiver already?
Well, yeah. I mean, you put him opposite Alshon Jeffrey now, and I mean, you got something to work with.
Yeah, I mean, they still have it? Like they got Jordan Matthews back like a month ago. I don't think they released him, so they had that. Like Mike Wallace went down with an injury, so yeah, okay, this gives him depth, but I don't know. I've also never really been that high on Golden Tate, if I'm being honest.
No, I've never been a big Golden Tate guy, but I mean, he's always been a sneaky, solid receiver.
And then you've got Ty Montgomery going to the Ravens. Ravens, I mean, they have not had a dynamic offense since the year they won the Super Bowl, and then even that was questionable. Because Montgomery, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but I was going to say Montgomery really was just a trade because Green Bay wanted him out.
Yeah,
it really was that simple. I think they would have taken a ham sandwich for him.
Which, all right, man, you make one mistake like that, and Green Bay will freaking cut your ass and never think about you again. So, all right, fair enough there. Do we really look at this as something that improves the Ravens, though? I mean, I kind of like it because you've never seen a guy on the Ravens who can really do the trick plays or anything like that. So I think he brings that to him. But in the long run, what do you think about this move?
I don't. It's a wash for me. I don't think it upgrades Baltimore that much. And I don't think, like you said, I mean, Ty Montgomery can do a couple different things because, he's used to now being a running back and a wide receiver. He can play the slot. He can play well, practically any position you want him to play on the field. But at the same time, does that really, upgrade them significantly? I don't think it does. They probably didn't give up a whole heck of a lot. I'm not sure what they gave up, but sure, it couldn't have been more than a 5th or a 6th or a 7th, or like I said, maybe just, here, take him. We were done with him. But I don't know. So I don't see it as a real positive move for Green Bay other than getting a guy who obviously wasn't a team player out of their locker room. And for Baltimore, I don't see it as a huge upgrade, so that was kind of a wash to me. I'm like,
And what do you think about Dante Fowler going to the Rams here? It's like, dude, the Rams.
It's just the rich getting richer. They're just trying to fortify. They're just trying to get ready. They might have seen a hole or a weakness that they thought they could address in Jacksonville. I'm not sure what their motive was for getting rid of him, but
I mean, it's just a third round pick. a third-round pick this year and a fifth-round pick in 2020 is not a bad return for a guy who's been a bust since they took him in the third overall pick. I'll tell you this, though. If the Rams don't win the Super Bowl this year and all these guys they signed wind up walking after the season, they're going to be screwed for at least the next 2 years, in my opinion. They have given up so much to get all these guys. They've basically given up, if I'm not mistaken, their first 3 rounds of the draft for this year, and they've given up a few picks in 2020. So they better win this year. And then you got Clayton Dix going to the Redskins, who now have the 2 best safeties in football, according to the analytics, with DJ Swearinger and Clayton Dix. What do you think about this one?
I think it's a good move for the Redskins, a team that's trying to hold on to the division in a weak NFC East. So I think it's a good move for them, and should help their defense. He's a solid player.
Yeah. And last thing, and then we'll move to our picks for this week. What do you think about the Browns firing Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley? Apparently, they had some infighting that the front office finally got tired of, and they fired both of them. I think we all kind of thought Jackson was on the hot seat coming into this season. But for him to be fired over a beef with one of his coaches, that's a horrible way to go.
I agree. I think it's terrible. But it was a move to be expected. Cleveland's on a team that wants change, wants to win. They're trying, I think, with Mayfield and whatnot, but they need new leadership and new coaching. So I agree with the move. And if you're going to get rid of, Jackson, you might as well get rid of Haley too, because obviously that offense wasn't exactly clicking this season. So they need to get somebody in there who can work with Mayfield and work with the young QB and then Landry and the receivers and, a young Nick Chubb and try and get something going. But, it'll more likely be next season, and they'll end up with another pretty high draft pick.
Yeah, absolutely. And, man, for them to go from him, and now you got Mr. Bountygate, Greg Williams, as your head coach. I'm sorry. I don't think I like that move. I mean, I get that you go with him because the defense has been playing well, so you're hoping that can energize the offense. But I'm sorry, in my opinion, as long as he's in the NFL in some way, shape, or form, Greg Williams will always be associated with Bountygate to me. And I don't like the idea of him running any team as their head coach right now. What do you say?
I agree with that. I mean, honestly, I don't think Greg Williams should be a head coach either, but I mean, I think the guy knows how to coach. I just think that some of his tactics aren't necessarily work with today's NFL, we'll say.
Yeah.
He's more of an old school mentality, and the NFL's kind of moved on from that old school mentality. So I don't see it as a good move for him, or the Browns, or any organization. So no, I'm gonna say that that's probably not a great hire.
And all this transition again. What kind of screwed over Johnny Manziel? I mean, not exactly like he was a lot to work with anyway, but you had all this transition and uncertainty in the Browns, and now you're basically doing it again with Baker Mayfield, a guy you want to be able to build your franchise around. And, yeah, all right, all this crap started because you had the head coach and the offensive coordinator who couldn't get their shit together. But he's the guy who's going to suffer for it in the long run. And now you have a guy as the head coach who's not an offensive-minded guy at all. And that's not really the guy you can help mentor, in my opinion. So anyway, let's go to our picks from this week. I am the only one who went 3-0.
Hold on, wait. Before we're – all right, after the picks.
No, if you want to go ahead.
No, because it's not NFL-related, so we'll stick NFL for right now.
I am the only one who went 3-0 on my picks last week. So I am now 16-7-1 on the season. Dave is 14-9-1 on the season. You did go 2-1 last week. You are now 11-12-1. So let's see if you can get up to 500 at the very least for this week. So we got 3 games we were picking here. We're going to start with the Monday night game. You got Tennessee going into Dallas to take on the Cowboys. They get to show off the bright, shiny new toy in Amari Cooper this week. I'm going to be honest. I'm sticking with my tried and true formula of always picking against the Cowboys. I'm going with Tennessee there. Who you got there?
I'm going with the Cowboys.
Nice. All right. And then you got what, in my opinion, is going to be the best game of the week right here. You got the Los Angeles Rams going into New Orleans to take on the Saints. This is one of the 425 games. Eric, who you got?
The Saints come marching in. I'm going to take the Saints at home, give the Rams their first loss of the season, mainly because they're at home and the Rams are going to have to travel east. So I'm gonna go with the Rams. Or I'm sorry, I'm going with the Saints at home.
I got to tell you, I definitely understand that mode of thinking right there. Got the Saints at 6-1, Rams at 8-0. I got to be honest, though. I think the Rams are just playing too good right now. They're getting Cooper Kupp back this week. Now you add Fowler to the mix. I'm sorry. Like, the Saints' defense, we know it improved last year and everything. We know it's still pretty good. I just think Goff is going to be way too much for that defense, man. And then you've got Gurley in there. I just think there's too many weapons. I'm going with the Rams. And now the final game, a game that at one point probably looked like it would have been a matchup of the week. This is the Sunday night game. You got the Green Bay Packers going into Foxborough to take out the New England Patriots. Eric, I feel like we're going to pick the same team here. I can't bet against Tom Brady and the Patriots. I'm going with the Patriots here.
I'm going to try it. I'm going to go with the Packers. I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers. He's going to get that game-winning drive he didn't get last week against the Rams, this week against the Patriots.
Now, I got to be honest. I mean, when you trade Clinton Dix, who is probably one of your two best defensive players, in my opinion, I think the Vikings may have won this division just off of that trade. I think you make a deal like that, and the first thing I thought of when I saw that is, man, they kind of punted their season with that. Because now, I mean, the defense is always a weak spot. Now you trade away one of your best players. I don't know. I don't really know if they're going to do. You know, the offense is going to be there, but now you just killed that defense. So I don't know. All right, Eric, go ahead. What you got?
The first college football playoff rankings came out tonight, and just want to run through the top 10 real quick. Alabama number 1, Clemson number 2, LSU number 3, came in pretty high there at number 3, Notre Dame number 4 at 8-0. Then you have Michigan at 5, just outside the top 4, and Georgia at 6. And Oklahoma, Washington State, Kentucky, and Ohio State round out the top 10. Pretty strong top 10. Alabama actually plays LSU this week, so one of them will not be in the top 4 come next week. And Georgia actually plays Kentucky this week as well, so number 6 versus number 9. So some big games this weekend. Just thought we should mention it.
Well, I got a couple.
Football. It's exciting.
I got a couple questions here maybe you can answer. I mean, I'm sure it all comes down to strength and scheduling here. But so how much stronger was LSU's schedule over Notre Dame that they get this 3 spot when Notre Dame's the undefeated team?
Pretty strong, actually. LSU has had a pretty strong start to the season. They started the season ranked number 25th LSU. They beat number 8 Miami to start the year. Then they beat number 7 Auburn, and then they beat number 9, or they lost to Florida. Was their only loss. They've beaten Georgia, who is number 2 at the time, and Mississippi State, who is number 22. So they've beaten 1, 2, 3, 4 top 25 opponents, and 3 of them were top 10. So they've beaten 3 top 10 opponents and lost to 1 top 25 opponent. That's their only loss was to number 22 Florida.
And here's the other one I'll bring up: UCF, Coastal Florida, I think is them, right?
They're 7-0, and they're ranked number 12 right now, which is higher than where they were ranked at this point last year.
Yeah.
But from what I hear, they have their hardest part of the schedule coming up now, where they have to play Temple, they have to play Cincinnati, they have to play some of the tougher teams in their division, and then they also have a conference championship game as well to go through.
So
they can get in from there, but it's an uphill battle.
Yeah, because I'm looking at so they're in a conference that I guess doesn't play any of the elite teams, because I'm looking at this schedule here. UConn.
No, they're in a shitty conference. They're a terrible conference.
Yeah. All right.
That's why they don't get any respect. It's because they play nobodies.
But here's the thing. Okay, so they're playing. You said Temple, Navy, Cincinnati, and USF. Can any of those teams really get them? Because you look at some of the teams that are above them, in that kind of 5 through 11 range. Michigan, Georgia, Oklahoma, even Kentucky, Ohio State, Florida, Washington State. I mean, those are pretty powerhouse programs right there. Beating any of the teams I named on their schedule, how do they pass all those teams? Because I'm assuming all those teams have harder schedules.
Well, like I said, Alabama and LSU are going to beat each other up. Georgia and Kentucky are going to beat each other up. Then whoever wins the SEC, they're going to beat each other up. So whether it's Georgia or Kentucky or Alabama or LSU, they're going to have to play each other. So they're going to beat each other up. Michigan is probably going to have to play Ohio State. Well, they definitely have to play Ohio State, and then they're going to have a Big 10 conference championship game they're going to have to go through. Florida's right ahead of them as well, but again, they have Georgia and Kentucky ahead of them in the SEC East, so they're not going to be able to leapfrog their way up. Washington State, if they run the table, they probably have a good chance to get in the top 4. Notre Dame, if they can run out, they've got a great chance of being in. Clemson, obviously. It's going to be hard to get in for UCF. They're going to need teams like Alabama, Clemson, and Notre Dame, Michigan, all to lose for them to really have a stronger, chance to get in. But I don't see all of that happening. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, somehow I don't see you thinking Alabama's going to lose many of these games. So let's put a prediction on this for you here. I'm not going to predict because I'm not going to pretend to really know much about it. But for you, who you think makes the Final Four in what? I guess it's a month from now.
I hate to do this. I'm going to say Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and whoever wins the Big Ten, whether it be Ohio State or Michigan.
If you had to pick between Michigan and Ohio State, who would you pick?
Maybe Michigan. They're kind of on a redemption tour, revenge tour season. So I don't know. I'm gonna maybe go with them, lean their way. Plus, I'm just kind of hoping Ohio State doesn't get rewarded for the season that they've had. I don't think that we really should be seeing Urban Meyer there in the college football playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be karmic payback if you don't see him there. So I give you that one. All right, then. I think we'll start to wrap this up here. You still have not seen any of the Netflix Marvel shows, have you?
I have not, but I've heard 2 of them got canceled.
2 of them got canceled. Those were not the 2 I was going to talk about. Daredevil Season 3, man. That's the one. Daredevil, oh, my God. That 3rd season was really, really good. Like I said, this has been a murder week and a half for me. The last day off I had was last Sunday. From, last Monday was actually my last day off. From Sunday night into Monday. I downed that entire freaking season. Definitely worth it, man. Definitely worth it. Yeah. All right, buddy. Yeah. All right. So I think that's going to do it for us here. Erich Tressler, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. Do you have any final thoughts, my friend?
Watch college football, and my Giants are off, so they can't lose. So we'll take it this week.
Here's my final thought, and this is going to be a random thought because I've been meaning to say this for a couple weeks now. The New York Mets went 77-85 this year. In June, they went 6-21. If you take that month out of the season, this roster actually went 71-64. So there is talent on this roster, and there is hope on this roster. It just needs a couple pieces. Hopefully, the Wilpons don't screw up this guy. So with that being said, Erich, once again, thank you for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for listening. That's going to do it for us here. I am your host, Mike Aguilar. Thank you all for listening, and we will see y'all next week.